back by popular demand, it's Marion Crowder. And for Marion, we get to bring Marion in. Do you have a morning beverage with you, Marion? There you go. So what's the mug, by the way?
So my mom actually did this for me. This was against my will. I'm just putting that out there for everyone. When Hunter, my husband was a minor league baseball player. When he was playing for the not San Francisco Giants, for the Frisco Rough Riders. So Hunter was drafted by the San Francisco Giants, got traded to the Texas Rangers organization, and he was in AA with the Frisco Rough Riders. That was my first time not in Texas, but not for soccer. So I got to go eat. I went to the Dallas Star, all the things, fell in love with it. I was in the airport and I was picking up a Texas mug, like a Texas Starbucks mug. Dropped it, splatters everywhere. Of course, they're like, you don't have to pay for that. And I'm like, got it. Okay. So I check out. I come back with this Texas mug, and my mom is like, oh my gosh, how cute. And literally every year for Christmas, she gets me a random state. So apparently I'm collecting them now, John. This one specifically is Mississippi. Wow. Which makes sense because I live here. But the other ones like Missouri, Arkansas, I don't know. We're just saying, thanks, Mom. Appreciate your love and kindness. So that's that.
So the goal for your mom obviously is to get you all 50 states in Puerto Rico and have it in the kitchen someplace.
Correct. I don't know how we're going to get to Alaska. I don't really even know if they have a Starbucks there. But.
Well, hang on. All right. So now that you've got me intrigued. All right. So Starbucks.
Are we looking?
we're looking. Starbucks locations, USA. All right. So this is it's a Wall Pass Wednesday. And traditionally, Wall Pass Wednesday is anything's on the table anyway. So it doesn't necessarily matter that
Starbucks mugs.
Yeah. So if we're discussing, Starbucks locations, it really doesn't matter. I don't care if you're unable to access my location. That's the whole point.
So I have gotten so far, I believe I've gotten Texas, I've gotten Mississippi, Arkansas, because for some reason they always, I'm always due for 2 Arkansas trips an SEC season at least. Yeah. Missouri as well. So I guess maybe that's why she got that one. And then she went to New York without me. How rude of her. And brought me back a mug. She was like, oh, I hope this makes up for it. I was like, okay.
That makes up for it.
Yeah.
Apparently, there is no Starbucks in Alaska, but Starbucks do exist in Washington State. So that's about as northwest within the United States that you're going to get, unless someone picks up a Starbucks mug in Washington State or in another location, meets you in Alaska, and presents you with that mug inside Alaska proper.
Right.
So
I've got to get to Alaska.
Yeah. So you and another individual have to get to Alaska. There has to be an official mug presentation for it to be an Alaska Starbucks mug. Then that way you get that particular state attached. So.
It's too much, John. It's too much.
It's
for a hobby I didn't even sign up for. Mm-hmm. It was thrust upon me, and I have to go to Alaska now.
Maybe we should just have your mom do it since she started it.
There we go. Mom, have so much fun on your cruise in Alaska. I've arranged someone to meet you there. Please deliver the mug back safely.
There you go. See, I think we have figured out the logistics of getting the mug for the 50 states that are not attached to Starbucks proper. All right, choice is yours. You can start with Super League, or you can start with Southeastern College Soccer and go soccer's in session. Where do you want to lead off this time?
We got a lot happening in the SEC. I'd rather let's hit Super League off the top.
Okay.
And then let's just roll into the SEC stuff. Because Super League also only has one game this weekend.
So this past weekend, once again, on the 24th, you had 24th and 25th.
Yeah.
It was a goalless draw at Riverfront with Tampa Bay. So Tampa Bay, 2 matches, 2 points, 2 draws. Drawing Dallas at Riverfront, drew DC Power at Riverfront. And then once again at American Legion Memorial in Charlotte, Carolina Ascent, Lex SC. You had the sharing of the points there.
Yep.
Now that you've had a couple days to look back at those two matchups, what sticks in your mind?
Carolina Ascent, obviously being at the top of the table. I actually thought, Lexington, Tennessee, their home opener. We still have a few teams that won't get to the home opener until, end of September or so. So Carolina is the only team that's played 3 matches in 3 weeks. And they continue to improve. And I think that's the biggest thing to take away. When we're talking about like a new league and new identities and all the things, it's really hard to just look at you have pillars, right? For like, okay, this team can be good in the future, because let's call it what it is. We are building something in this first year with the hopes that we will continuously improve, right? Talent will improve, team relationships will improve, all the things. So there's a couple of things that I have like in my mind as I'm watching these teams early on. Number one, their ability to respond. Carolina Ascent, we've seen that time and time again. They go down, they equalize, they fight hard, they play a full 90-minute game. Love that. Second thing, which I thought was really great in the Carolina Lexington game, was chance creation, right? I don't look necessarily as much in like the execution and how perfect the execution is this early. I more look at chance creation and what are we creating? Is it quality? Is it in quantity, right? And that game was end to end. Granted, the defending needed some adjustments, but from an attacking perspective, really end-to-end game, lots of chance creation, lots of quality chance creation, and an absolute screamer from Mia Corbin, I believe it was, from the top of the box to equalize. And so I think now what I want to see for some of the teams in the Super League, and I'm looking at, so I was on the DC Power and Tampa Bay game. What I really want to see a little bit more of in the coming weeks is the ability to solve problems. Because I've said it ad nauseum, even on the broadcast, these teams don't have a firm identity yet. They're still trying to figure out exactly how they want to play, exactly what their style is going to be. And so when that's the case, it's really important for players to problem solve on the go. You're not going to be prepared for every situation. The scouting reports are really limited at the moment. And so it really is on you as the player in between those white lines to be able to solve problems and to do that in real time. And I think that's the piece I need to see a little bit more improvement of. Specifically, I'm thinking like DC Power. There are some times where I'm like, if you guys would just go away from this and get into XYZ, you'd find this opening and you'd be into goal. It's not like they don't have the talent, right? They're just lacking a little bit of that problem solving.
The one matchup this weekend introduces yet another club here in Super League, and it's a home match at Maimonides where Brooklyn FC comes to the table, and they take on Carolina Ascent, who hit the road and head up to Brooklyn. So the first matchup for Brooklyn FC.
Yep. It's going to be an exciting one. I think Brooklyn FC is going to really offer us something different and unique to the Super League. Obviously, I think it's going to be a very unique crowd. I think that they're going to have the ear of a lot of people. One of also, the most prominent kind of ownership groups that we have alongside Carolina. So, and I mean, DC Power's got some, but in terms of big time names, I feel like Carolina and DC are right up there.
Yeah, it took me a little while to figure out. Do I remember how to pronounce Maimonides Park? And it took me a second to figure it out.
It's a tongue. It's like an anemone.
Yes, the sea creatures that we find at the bottom of the ocean.
Right. Still don't know what it is, but
yeah, AM gives you a couple of Scrabble points. There's a lot of vowels, so and if you use all 7 letters, it gets you an extra 50. So the one matchup this weekend. Now, going to Soccer's in Session, the other reason that we bring you in every week is to discuss what's going on where it just means more in the Southeastern Conference. We're still drifting in and still trying to get to know ourselves when it comes to all of these clubs with the non-conference matchups. You still have some teams, like you mentioned last week, 2 top teams squaring off against each other. From 30,000 feet, now that you've had a couple days to digest what happened this past weekend, what sticks in your mind?
I think we will see the SEC go deeper in the postseason than we ever have. And honestly, I think aside from, and I don't want to be too terribly rude today, maybe some other day, but today, aside from a couple teams who look to me like they're going to be at the bottom this year, the middle part of that pack has really started to come up to the top part of the pack. I mean, we've also just got some legendary coaches. We had like two 100 two 100th wins on the weekend. I believe it was Wes Hart getting his 100th win, 100th career win, and then Darren Ambrose getting his 100th Commodore win at Vandy. They beat St. Mary's 4-1. I do want to hit on my Georgia Bulldogs, right? Like let's just do it. Everyone's gonna, oh, you're so biased. So whatever. Okay, look, just hear my case. So Summer Dinnigan, co-freshman of the year last year, gets a hat trick after they take down Kennesaw State 6-0.
Yeah.
Grad transfer, who will end up being really impactful for them, Margie DiTrizio, gets a brace.
There you go.
Kennesaw State, I get it. Huge confidence win. Okay. And here's the point that I want to make for Georgia. They played 2 top 10 teams back to back. And I'm going to argue that Georgia has the best and most well-rounded non-conference schedule out of anyone in the SEC. So they go 0-0 draw against the number 7 Pitt team, who is coached by legend Randy Waldrum. We all know him, love him. His teams are excellent.
Yep.
Then you have a 3-4 loss on the road to number 5 North Carolina. I know it's a loss, but it was huge in terms of the goal production and in terms of the quality of goals that we saw. And then if you look at it as a whole, their exhibition featured number 13 ranked Clemson, okay, a Clemson team who we saw make it very, very far in the postseason. Then they go play those 2 top 10 teams, like I just mentioned. You get the confidence boost with Kennesaw State, which is what non-conference is about, right? You got to have that in there somewhere.
Yep.
But then go have fun in the coming weeks playing defending national champion Florida State. Like, good luck there. Probably 5 players on that team that could have gone into professional contracts last year. And then you're going to look at 2 teams right before the start of the season. You're going to look at 2 teams in a Samford and a UCF who you will quite likely see in the opening rounds of the NCAA tournament. So in terms of like the elite exposure that Georgia is getting with those teams we just mentioned, and the preparation for some of those, and let's be honest, some of the harder matchups are those opening NCAA rounds when you haven't faced that kind of style team. You don't have the scout. You don't know what they've done in the season. They're getting that exposure now, and it also gives them a chance to kind of invite some other players onto the pitch instead of playing, 11 players for 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to argue that Georgia is going to be the most prepared going into the season. You can come at me if you would like, everyone.
Well, I mean, but that's the beauty of tape is that Marion has come in and presented her case to the court. So we'll have it off to the side. So Counselor, your thoughts on the Georgia Bulldogs have been registered into the public record here at SDH, and we will hang on to those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Players of the week in the SEC this past week. Offensive Player of the Week, Trinity Byers out of Texas. First 78 minutes against SMU. This was a match that you had spot shadowed into last weekend. 5th student athlete in program history to be credited with a 4-goal performance in a single match. 4 goals against SMU for student athlete in program history to score 50 or more during her career on the 40 acres. NCAA's active leader in career goals with 52 after what she did in Dallas on Thursday night. Defensive Player of the Week, LJ Knox, the senior center back out of Auburn. Senior center back out of Brentwood, Tennessee, the Nashville area. Very, very quiet when it comes to knowing where to get talent, but they got a lot of talent in that Nashville area, and Auburn has invaded Nashville and gotten a lot of talent there in Central Tennessee. A couple of shutouts for Auburn on the week. Shutout streak now to 3 matches, the third time in program history, first time since 2015 that they've done that. And now her 1v1 ability, just 2 shots on the week, no shots on target, 3 crosses blocked as well. Freshman of the week is UT freshman Reese Mattern from Charlottesville, Virginia. Spark for the Lady Vols, got the back of the net for the game winner against East Tennessee State. So that's the rundown of the players of the week in the SEC. And so once again, you get the variety of folks that are there, the folks putting up those early markers in those non-conference games that you're talking about. Texas putting up a number on SMU, Auburn being defensive, and Tennessee squeaking out a win that I think tests them against an East Tennessee State side that, as you talk about, those teams in the opening rounds of the tournament that come from the group of 4, group of 5s that you don't know about going in, you're like, okay, we know what we're kind of getting into here in an early non-conference contest against a conference that doesn't leap off the page yet.
Yeah, and Lipscomb as well for Tennessee, right? A great result on the weekend from them, a team that Tennessee literally always meets in the NCAA tournament. Love to see that from Joe Kurt, because I think, and you bring up a really good point with that kind of list of players of the week. When you look at a Texas and you look at a Tennessee, you can't rightfully compare the two just in terms of score. So one of the biggest things that I always like to remind people about is that Texas is starting from a much different position than the rest of the teams in this conference. Texas has returned an entire starting lineup. I think that there's only one other, maybe Washington State, one other school in the country that has done that this year. In my 4 years at Georgia, never in my life did I see that on a scouting report, right? Like, oh, hey, this is the same exact team as last year. And so when we're talking about what Texas has done historically in 2023, we're doing that because 2023 Texas is 2024 Texas. And so I think for them, at least me, I hold them to a little bit of a higher standard in terms of what they should be able to do in the non-conference. Like I look at their number 24. So it was number 12 Texas versus number 24 Iowa on Sunday. It was a scoreless draw, a lot of fatigue in the decision-making. It was really the first time Texas went that Thursday, Sunday. And you always kind of have one of those in the non-conference when you're like, all right, this is like me getting my legs back under me. The fatigue was shown definitely in the decision-making in the final third from Texas. And John, it was one of those where, like, I'm looking at the stats and it's like they combined for 27 shots, the two teams, 10 of them on goal, and the GKs had, notching 4+ saves. That makes you think, right? Wow, what an exciting matchup end to end. I was on that game. I'm telling you, it wasn't. I'll be quite honest. There were only a handful of quality opportunities. And that was one of those matches where the stats didn't tell the full story, as opposed to what you just mentioned, Tennessee doing, getting a freshman on Player of the Week, really showing out in some of those regional local matchups that are a big deal for them come the postseason. And what Tennessee is struggling with is the fact that they've got like 17 new faces. They've got like, nine portal transfers, maybe like 8 freshmen, something like that, around that number. Joe Kurt lost a lot, but he gained a lot. And you can talk about the talent that he gained, but getting all of that talent to play on the same wavelength is a really difficult thing to do. So that I actually would argue that Tennessee's results on the weekend were more impressive than Texas.
All right, the calendar that's coming up in the SEC, what games are you looking at, and what game will you be on the bark for to educate everybody this upcoming weekend?
So Georgia, obviously, actually, let me pull up so I don't misspeak because, I've got my week. So I'm on the Tennessee Duke game.
Okay.
And that's why I'm, so into Tennessee at the moment, because I'm actually watching them and they're doing some really good stuff. Let's see. Did Georgia play Florida State?
You didn't pick up one of those John Herdman drones, did you?
No.
Okay. You're watching film. You didn't hire a drone. Okay.
Correct. Look, I think that we need to talk about like Missouri. Well, actually, you know what? I want to talk about Florida because I'm calling Florida in a couple weeks as well. And I've been really impressed with Florida and what they've been able to do. So they just had a huge tie against an always NCAA bound UCF side. They're going to play Georgia State. That's not going to be an easy one for Florida. Georgia State's always got quality programs, quality discipline, defensive units. So the Gators, the big part of that is that they dealt with the weather delay for about an hour. And then they have a freshman net the equalizer. And then they have a player who had been injured, dealing with rehab. She comes back this year. She gets the second equalizer. And overall, just such a solid result because from being down at all last season. And now they've done it twice in one game, again, against a really solid UCF side. So Florida, for me, has jumped in terms of strength of schedule quite a bit from where they were last year. And I think that Georgia State matchup this week is going to be something that they are really not going to take lightly. And I wouldn't either. Obviously, we talked about Georgia, FSU. That is this coming weekend. That's going to be on ACC Network. Do not miss that one. That is going to be a matchup you might see come the NCAAs. Missouri, Miami. Here's the thing about Missouri for me. They lose to a ranked St. Louis team. They've got just 1 win in 4, John, but they're playing 2 nationally ranked teams within that 4. One of them being a top 10 Memphis team who Ole Miss also lost to. And so they will play a very good ACC matchup in Miami. That'll be a really good test for them in terms of a different kind of style of play. And then Auburn, South Alabama. I feel like that's always an interesting one because South Alabama will shock a lot of people with how good they are. Let's see what else we got. Arkansas. I got to talk about Arkansas. I can't get through an SEC soccer segment without talking about Arkansas. John.
Yeah.
Look, 8 different goal scorers and a 10-0 win against Northwestern. Okay, call it what you will. But then they go top 10 matchup, first one of the season, number 9 Arkansas, number 8 Michigan State, 2-2 draw, extremely physical game, 34 fouls, 7 cards. Arkansas goes down to 10 players. And what a performance from their goalkeeper, Keegan Smith. Arkansas hasn't had a really elite goaltender since Katie Lund, who is playing for Racing Louisville now. And Keegan Smith could potentially be that missing piece for them. Arkansas this week is going to play, let's see, who do we have for the Arkansas Razorbacks? WKU. Okay. So they have an easier schedule, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And then South Carolina is playing a top-ranked Ohio State team. So South Carolina, John, is always that team that just kind of bides their time. They mind their own business. They're always a little silent because they're not that flashy, but they're so consistent. So this weekend they had 2 fifth-years getting multiple goals. Karina Zillow got a brace on the weekend. Kat Berry, likely going to be an All-American this year, gets a brace on the weekend. So fifth years leading the way, which is something Shelley Smith likes to see. Ohio State currently ranked at number 18, so that will be a really good matchup as well.
And so you're saying early on that Memphis and South Alabama are early pains in the
yes.
what?
Are what?
They're early pains in the what when you play.
Oh, absolutely, and they always are. So like I think of Memphis, who always typically gets like a Mississippi State in the early rounds. They always sometimes will get an Arkansas in the early rounds. Like I'm telling you guys, sometimes the easier matchups are like those Sweet 16 matchups. Sometimes the ones that catch you off guard the most are the teams that you haven't played, right? The conferences you don't really understand the style of play. And when you think about someone like a Memphis, someone like a South Alabama, you're telling me that I get a chance to show Arkansas this, the love child of the SEC. I get a chance to go and show them that we're something more than just a school in Tennessee.
Yep.
Like, no. So, I mean, they always play with such a chip on their shoulder as well, which is why I love seeing some of these in the non-conference, because I think that you're going to meet them again postseason for sure.
Always the fun part of the schedule. And as always, Marion, great to see you. Great to catch up with you. And great to pick your brain about what's going on in USL Super League and with the SEC. So we get basically two segments in one every single week when you get to drop by and break everything down in the pro ranks and in the college ranks for the Southeastern Conference, and we love you for it. So
always a blast.
How much is left in the mug of the day? How much coffee is in? Is this your first?
This is my 3rd cup of the day.
Whoa!
So we had, I know, and it's 9:30 where I'm at, or like 9:56 where I'm at. So we had high school practice this morning. I can't show up to, sophomores and juniors in high school without a cup of coffee. So that was that. Come back home, Hunter, sweet love to him. He has a full pot of coffee waiting on me. So I'm just, here we are.
Yes. So third cup of coffee, and you're in study hall, and you take your study hall break to come and hang out with us on Wall.
What about you?
This is my. Today it's the Gwinnett Stripers.
Love that.
Matching minor leagues. When you talk, and I do have Frisco Rough Riders gear somewhere here in the office. It does exist.
Love Frisco. Frisco.
And so for me, it is. Well, actually, hell, I'm not going to show you inside the mug. I'm going to go ahead, and I'm waiting for the Pepsi sponsorship. There you go. See, I have never gotten into the idea of drinking hot, flavorless water for my caffeine. I've never been a coffee person.
You have not made coffee correctly then, sir.
Well, then the people that I've been around have not made it correctly, and I've never been a fan. I've just gone straight to the sodas. And since I'm 712 years old and drink soda first thing in the morning instead of coffee,
I'm
just a different bird, but hell, you knew that.
Hey, we all have that one thing that's going to end up being the death of us. I'm going to be over caffeinated. It'll be sodas for you, and we'll just go out happy, man. That's all it's about.
Exactly. So be safe. Have good calls this weekend. We will catch up with you once again. This time in the Central Time Zone and the Eastern Time Zone. Hell, all the time zones. Once
all
again,
the time zones.
Week again. Week Wednesday, 10:30 Eastern Time. As always, Marion Crowder dropping by to talk soccer's in session in the SEC and with what's going on in the USL Super League. As always, my friend, great to see you. We'll catch up with you next week.
Good to see you, John. Talk to you soon. Bye.
All right, that's Marion.